Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here. In this video, we're going to be talking about the new Herta 5-star signature into the Unreachable Veil. I want to answer a few questions for us. One, is it actually worth the investment, especially if you're like small spenders, free to play? Two, can it be used on other characters as well? How versatile it is? And three, if you just can't afford it, are there any alternatives for Herta? Unless this is like super OP, we'll discuss all of it in this video. Now, first things first, always like to look at the stats here. This has a ridiculous amount of attack. I do believe it's one of the highest in the entire game itself, if not probably one tied for the highest. 635 is really massive. This does open up some interesting options because you might be able to run like double attack percentage gear to scale off this very high base attack. Other than that, let's look at the stats, shall we? So we can see how versatile it is. This gives us very nice crit rate, 12%. There are very few erudition gear that actually gives access to crit rate, crit damage. A lot of it tends to have like specific requirements. That is why Tingyuan's signature, Argenti's signature is so good because of the additional crit damage it provides. For Herta, she has it in a kit, so nice crit rate contrasting her overall kit buffing crit damage. When the wearer uses out, you basically get a damage increase for out and skill, but the interesting part is you get some skill points back if you have 140 more energy. Now, this is quite a universal stuff. Most characters, erudition characters, can use crit rate. It is a really nice amount of damage increase of 60% as well, the last 3 turns. And the skill point positivity really sets it apart from the other Lightcones because currently, this is probably one of the only ones that give you good skill point efficiency. An interesting thought is running multiple of it on different characters. You might be able to run multiple erudition characters and skill point neutral your entire team with this Lightcone. But then again, who has so many, right? So now that we talk about this one, why it's really excellent, let's go in and talk about some options. I don't want to just talk about whale stuff. Let's give us some options, alternatives for Herta as well. Although her signature is definitely going to be best in slot, there are quite good alternatives. First of all, let's talk about the free-to-play options first, and then we will slowly move into the a bit more expensive but yet still really good ones. If you are free-to-play, you might have Genius Repose. Genius Repose is excellent. Of course, this is a gacha 4-star, so you might need a little bit of luck to get this, but this is solid. Even at Super Imposition 1, it gives you a lot of attack. It gives you a good amount of attack. It gives you a good amount of crit damage. If you have it all the way up to Super Imposition 5, maybe you have been pulling for a while now, you're a really long-term player, although free to play, you can still get this. This is super solid. I think this is probably going to be one of my top picks for a free-to-play player. 476 attack, nothing to scoff at, is quite decent as well. Alternatively, you can also be a free-to-play and have Himiko's signature Lightcone. This works really well because of the very high 582 base attack. Very nice generic stats of here giving attack that scales off with the number of enemies. Erudition characters, naturally you'll be playing them into multiple enemies anyway, so Knight of the Milky Way is actually really solid for most erudition characters. It does fall off against bosses, making it a bit harder to fight bosses because you do drop off, especially after you kill the ads and all the minions and stuff like that. So that is something to note, but Knight of Milky Way is really solid. Now, not really free to play, but I want to move on to some other options. It's a 4-star, it's a battle pass. If you pick this up for a really long time, and this is probably one of the best battle pass Lightcones available. If you have it at Super Imposition 5, this is extremely solid. It gives you a universal damage increase of 0.4% multiplied by your energy, which is super nice because Herta has a huge amount of energy, so you get the entirety of this buff. At S5, this becomes very competitive. If you only have it at Super Imposition 1, I think it will fail in comparison with a lot of the other options we mentioned already, but you can slowly scale your way. It's $10 a month for like 5 patches, which is like almost 7-8 months. If you can afford it, this is one of the better Lightcones in the Battle Pass anyway, to go all the way up to Super Imposition 5. Very versatile as well. Other than these few options, there are a few others, but of course we are going down the list of not as good or more expensive. Some of you might be wondering, Eternal Calculus as well. This I don't think is really very fantastic. Although it's free to play, you lose out a little bit of stats if you have Himiko's signature. That's a lot better, but of course you still get the attack base stats, you get some attack here and there, and you get a little bit of additional stats. It's not the best, not the worst. If you don't have any other options, this is of course a solid pick while you're still finding other options that we mentioned in this video too. For those of you who are playing multiple erudition and you have everything used, like all of the above option, you're like, EOD, I already used all of these. 2 other options I think are decent, of course, is the 2 seriousness of breakfast here, just decent stats. It's very, very mediocre, but it's usable as well. The day the Cosmos fails is also usable, especially if you have, for example, attacking enemies with corresponding weakness, which is ice. It could be interesting because it gives you a lot of crit damage, but it's not as universal as, for example, the seriousness of breakfast, because sometimes you might be playing Herta into non-ice weak enemies, and that's where you have a bit of trouble. Some of you richer people who have maybe Before Dawn, Jingyuan signature, and are looking to maybe like use it on multiple characters, this is also really solid. Gives a lot of crit damage, gives you a general good amounts of buffing in terms of skill ultimate, which is really nice too. Argenti signature, similar to the Battle Pass one, is also really good. Gives you crit damage, gives you ultimate damage increase by that scales off quite a lot as well. So this is also decent. And those are some options for Herta. Overall, is her signature necessary for her? Honestly, I don't really think so. Especially since my account, I personally have the today is another peaceful day at Super Imposition 5. So I likely am going to be sticking with this one and skipping her signature. But the additional skill points does make it interesting, because as we see over here, none of the other Lightcones in the game actually offer that skill point, additional skill point, and erudition characters tend to burst quite often. Now that we talk about Herta's signature and some of my thoughts as well, let's go on with how versatile this is. So is it worth picking up even though it's not the best? It's like super OP on Herta. Let's talk about it as well. If you're looking at some other characters in the game, the most important thing is who has 140 burst cost to make use of the skill point positivity, because that is truly the only thing that is making it special out of the rest of them. The rest is like just damage, some crit rate here and there. The one that is making it quite interesting is the skill points. Out of all of the erudition characters that we have in the game, excluding the Herta herself, very few people actually have 140 burst cost. 1, Rapper, 140 burst cost. 2, you have Argenti's full burst, which might be also quite a good one. You have Jade's full burst. Oh, she only has 1 burst, but her burst also is expensive, 140. And last but not least, of course, Ting Xue. But the Lightcone itself, if you look at it, only buffs skill and ultimate damage. So anyone that uses like enhanced basic attack doesn't really benefit too much. So it is relatively niche. Then we would have liked, it would be nice if it was a universal damage dealt increase. That would be really, really fantastic. But generally speaking, you are looking at, are you playing Ting Xue? Are you playing Jade? Are you playing Rapper? For some reason, you want the extra crit on her as well. Or perhaps you are running Argenti and you don't have his signature Lightcone. These are all characters that are worth considering. Characters that a lot of us might be using right now, for example like Himiko, actually fall short of the 140 burst cost, 120 only. So yeah, you might as well just like use other options overall, in my opinion. Versatility wise, it is quite flexible. Erudition characters generally can use the skills quite well, but all in all, I would probably give it a miss. I don't think it's a super necessary thing for any account, especially if you have the other options that we talked about already. I really like the Himiko's signature, as well as, of course, today is another peaceful day at S5. If you have these two, I think the priority goes down by a lot. And thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. If you'd like to see more of such content, do subscribe and check out these 2 other videos I think you might like too. See you guys in the next video.